So thank you so much for being here with me today. You were a superstar at our last program, so we're honored to have a one-on-one conversation with you. We are embarking, as you know, on an economic platform this term, and we're really trying to have more thorough and reflective conversations about economics in Florida and trying to expose more people to what economics means and its impact. So could you please share your educational journey with us and what really led you in this profession?
Mine has been interesting because my parents are from rural Florida, and being from rural Florida means that a lot of them were in business. My dad is from Hamilton County, Florida, and for their a major business was tobacco. So my dad picked tobacco. His father was had a small business. Then my mother's family came from Lake County, Florida, a lot of orange groves. Her father had a taxi company, but also he picked oranges. So the idea of being ingrained in the history of Florida to me was always intriguing because a lot of people who are in Florida aren't from Florida. So for me, I was always excited to learn about the history of Florida because my friends just didn't know. So as a sixth generation Florida native, that wanted me to really become an entrepreneur, learn business because my family did that. So education was great, school was great, but like I said in the forum, one thing that I wish I would have did in college was spend a summer learning a trade, going to electrician school, because those skills are something that once you have it, you can use it forever, but also you can go into business, you can employ other people. And that my family background being from rural Florida, they left rural Florida years ago. Some are still there, but many of them went to South St. Pete, Orlando, Tallahassee, and Gainesville. So one of our family matriarchs, Kellen Hobbs, is a Gibbs High School graduate. And with being in St. Pete and me having lived there, I really was able to understand the state of Florida. And I am a product of the state, with education, with family, but also with business. And that's why we're here today.
Well, I think that is so rare to meet someone who really has those generational ties to Florida. You mentioned something that's so important. So many people talk about being here, Florida, being in Florida, or being from Florida, but not in the same way that you have been, where your family's history, like my husband's family history, has such deep roots in the state that it gives you a different lens on what economics is and the importance of building legacy in your family. So if you can tell me a little bit more about the ways in which you've worked in different industries and what you've learned along the way. Because what I find unique, not being from here, but I always say being of here now after almost 3 decades, is that industries and businesses rule Florida. Unlike any other state, when you go in, there are a lot of small businesses that thrive and move the economy here.
Of course, and with that, with Florida being such a transient state, anybody can come to Florida and become somebody. You don't have to join the right country clubs. You don't have to be in the right groups. Don't have to go to the right schools. That really doesn't have weight in Florida as it does in other states. In Florida, somebody can come here and say in 5, 10 years, I want to be CEO. I want to be involved in my community and help people. And that's, to me, really what makes it unique, because of the fact that you don't have to wait in a long line and pay your dues in the same way that you may have to in a place like New York or Chicago. So with the industries, when I was Secretary of Commerce, we really saw the growth of Florida when it came to financial services, healthcare, because when people come to Florida, really, even though people may say it's an older population, the numbers say that during COVID, a lot of young people came back home or wanted to move to Florida because they could now work anywhere. So when you look at industries, you have healthcare is always big, professional services, transportation, logistics. And I now have friends who may have gone to college, but now they say, Jamal, I now want to start my own trucking company. I now want to start my own moving company, because there will always be people who are moving to Florida. I graduated high school in 2000. Back then, the population of Florida was about 10 million. Now it's 23 million. And to me, that is astronomical and amazing because people know the why Florida is so special. And I think that with the industries of healthcare, life sciences, aerospace, because people don't necessarily think of Florida as a military state, but we're a very military friendly state because you have MacDill right there. That's the headquarters for SOCOM and CENTCOM. And then you have a Southcom based out of South Florida, and even Jacksonville in the Panhandle. So with the military installation, there's always going to be businesses and contractors who want to do work there, but also the ports. We have about over a dozen ports in Florida. So if you look at the industries and the big anchors, people will want to tap into those to become vendors, to have their own small businesses. And that's why I really encourage everybody to have an LLC. I have an LLC. And as I start other companies, to me, that is important because an LLC does not take a lot of time. You go to the Florida Department of State website, to Sunbiz, start your LLC, doesn't cost a lot of money. And now you can have a plan to do contracting, a plan to do business that may be small now, but that is really what makes Florida special, is that it's easy to have a business and really the best place for people to grow their idea.
Well, you touched upon, some of the thoughts I had in our next question about entrepreneurship and dreams. I do find it interesting, like you said, that anyone can come here and pave their own pathway. But 23 million people, that's a lot of competition. It's different now. I mean, having been here before to now, housing is different, transportation is different, access to chambers are different. I mean, we all have the way that we get into the community, but it is a tougher game. So what would you say to younger people about pursuing their entrepreneurial dreams, their networking, and how they just get in the game in general?
I say take a chance. My major in college was in religion. My mom raised us to be pastors. My brothers are in the ministry. And for me, it was just exciting because my mom's side was Baptist, dad's side was Methodist, but I just enjoy the topic of faith. I enjoy the topic of people, learning their backgrounds, learning what motivates them, regardless of their faith or where they're from. And that to me is the key to entrepreneurship, the key for young people to really tap into getting to know people who may not think like them, who may not be where, who may not even be in the same industry, because now you have a skill set that they might not have, and now they can contract with you. And with Florida, uh, again, with COVID, you really had a major increase of people moving here from around the world because they can now work anywhere. And those services are now needed for plumbing, electricians, because I know when we were home for the first few months, everybody needed toilet paper. Everybody realized maybe I need a better plumber because I'm home more. Maybe I need a HVAC person. And in Florida, you cannot really be comfortable in your house without AC. So with the different industry, that will never, ever be an industry that goes dead in Florida with AC and plumbing, because people want to be inside because they may not be comfortable being outside all the time, especially if they're not from Florida. They may not know how to deal with mosquitoes and the humidity, which people who have been here for a while, at least 5 years, you've kind of now adjusted to it. So I think that is going to be the really nexus for young people to start thinking about, yes, it's great to go to college, but also what type of trade can I have to employ myself, employ others, have a business idea, and really make a difference in my community, regardless of what happens in the economy. Once that trade happens, there's always going to be people who need that skill set, because Florida's going to be a hot state. Florida's going to have water, whether it's pool repair, whether it's water purification. There's going to be a need for that because of what Florida is and where Florida is going.
Well, I will concur with all of that because I am embarrassed to say how much time I have spent with lawn experts, specifically the air experts,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
plumbing experts. You are surprised at how much you don't know. And the people here who embark on those trades, they're really experts. They take time to spend that time to let you know what's going on and the why. Sometimes I think about what you're saying is who is transitioning these skill set down, and are we going to have genuine carpenters who know how to be the next generation of tradesmen or tradespersons to do this type of work. So having said that, we are doing workforce this semester. We're doing AI this semester. We're doing transportation this semester, embarking on, again, a whole different economic platform. What do you view as the emerging professions? I know you mentioned a lot of trades, but what do you view as the emerging professions that people who are coming in here? I note that ARC Investment is down here in St. Petersburg now. We have a lot of different new industries that at least our city is not used to, that have come down here and they're making a claim?
I made a list that I'm looking at right now. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, you have administrative support, sales, food prep and services, transportation, material moving, business and finance operations, and even healthcare. And also, specifically with healthcare, right now, the top 10 highest paying healthcare roles are cardiologists, emergency management physicians, ophthalmologists, radiologists, orthodontists, neurologists, physicians, anesthesiologists, and then also those who are family medicine physicians. And then if you even look at logistics, pilots, co-pilots, flight engineers, harbor pilots for the port. And all of these, there's always going to be a need for electricians, master plumbers, high-tech manufacturing. With ARC Investments, I was involved with them as they came to Florida. And that was just an example of those wanting to leave New York, wanting to be in a place to where now people can work anywhere, but be in a place where they're comfortable, they like the weather, but also a place where it's good for them for business when it comes to taxes.
Mhm.
And with the high growth industries, anything that is population driven, such as healthcare, people will always need healthcare. People will always need food. People will always need trucking and logistics, because with the large population that we have in the state of Florida, there's going to be that need for people who need realtors, people who need, obviously the insurance topic is a major topic. Those who are now going to go into insurance. I have friends now who are going to start insurance companies because of the need of people who need to be insured, whether it's health insurance, life insurance, or even home insurance, which is a topic that is not going to go away.
Mhm.
And with that, when you start to look at the population trend and the demographic trends of where people are coming from, they're going to need services from people who have business ideas. So this is the best time to really become an entrepreneur, because the growth in Florida is not stopping. And I think that us right now, as the third largest state in the US, is really only going to be more prosperous as we move forward.
Thank you so much. I only have one other question that I like to throw out there all the time, which is your wisdom. A lot of people always come up to you, and I'm sure they're picking your brain for, a lot of different advice, but what would you like to share as parting words of wisdom to a young person interested in pursuing, their dreams like everyone else here? What would you say specifically?
I would say to take the chance. I worked in higher education, the military, seaports, economic development in the state of Florida for the state. And taking the chance is really going to open doors, whether or not you fail, whether or not you pass, but not having a regret.
Mhm.
Take the chance when you're young. If you're 21, 22, try a business and fails, hey, you took the chance, but also you failed when you were young, before you may have had kids, before you may have been married. It's just a different type of mindset when you are younger, because you can take the chance and not have the same backlash if it doesn't work. So now you take the chance, you can now have your own company, become wealthy, employ people, help families, change the lives of others. If it doesn't work out, hey, you can always go back to the corporate world or the government world. And my chance taking really started in 2006. In '06, you had the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan going on. And my father was in Vietnam. My grandfather was in World War II. My brother was in Iraq. And my brother and father were career Army soldiers. And in '06, this is a time when you had the wars going on, and people would say, well, I'm for the troops. And I was the same way. But people say, Jamal, like, you're healthy. Why aren't you serving? I'm like, well, my dad did it. My brother did it. And I just didn't have a reason to say why I was not doing it. So one day I just enlisted, because
Mm.
I didn't want to have that story. Well, I could keep talking about my dad and brother, but I never did it myself. I don't want to have regrets. And to me, that was pretty much one of the pivotal moments in my life, because I stopped the traditional path of just going to school, having a job. I took a detour, but that detour changed my entire life, changed my entire trajectory. So going to the Marine Corps, going to Afghanistan, becoming an officer, now being in the Navy Reserves, really allows me to give back and just not tell the story of my family and how they serve, but hey, I need to make my own story, need to have my own life and family. So now being married and then having a child, I want to stress that to my son. Though I or your family may have done things, whether it's start a business, whether or not it worked out, now to inspire the next generation to take the chance to not have regrets. Because once you are older, you have more commitments. It's just harder to make that move, harder to make that transition. So for everyone who is listening, really, you just have to have faith in your family, your abilities, and what you believe in to take you to the next level to make a difference in the state. Because right now, I think that St. Petersburg College is phenomenal. And with the knowledge and skills that can be gained, can really go around the world to make a transformational impact. So I think that definitely for the young students here or those who are maybe even older who are listening, taking the chance at a younger age, it's easier, but you will reap the benefits years later to pass down to the next generation.
That's powerful. No regrets. That's very powerful. Thank you, Jamal. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving back. Thank you for sharing your story. We appreciate it.
No problem. Have a great day.